Hello, lovely people. Welcome to the Devrel Show. I think it's episode 27, which is, I say that every Devrel Show. I'm always excited to do the Devrel Show, always excited to talk with amazing guests. It's the before last show of the year. So I'm still going to do a show on the 12th of December. That's going to be the last one of 2024 because, after it's too close from Christmas time and people preparing to go on vacation or taking some time off or taking some time with friends and family. So I'm not going to do another show after the next one. That's going to be the end of 2024. But obviously, that show is going nowhere. I'm going to come back with the Devrel Show in 2025 with a first episode on January 9. And actually, 2025 is already going well. I started to book the guest for the next season of the show, and I'm already booked until July. With that said, I still have like 10 to 11 episodes to book for 2025. So if you are a developer advocate, if you work in developer relation, and you would like to come on the show, please just let me know. Ping me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, send me an email, go on my website, fred.dev, all the information is there. Write a comment on YouTube. There's like so many ways to contact me or ping me in the Slack community, the DevRel Collective Slack community. I'm there too. Would always I'm always looking for new guests for the show. It's a great opportunity to have. I always say like the show is like friends discussing about DevRel. With also a technical demo. So there's the demo at the end because, we're a developer advocate. We like to share our skills. We like to share our passion about different technology. And I love the fact that, yes, you can learn at the first part of the show where we discuss about different things, but also you can learn technical skills that can be useful for your day-to-day life, or actually maybe not your day-to-day life, but at least at work. So on that note, I stopped talking and I would love to welcome Sid to the show. Welcome, Sid. How is life?
All good, Fred. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to do this episode with you.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming to the show. Especially because where you live, it's for me. It's a little bit late to do a live stream. I think it's like 10:30 for you, p.m. So
Yeah,
yeah, thanks for doing that. I personally wouldn't do a show at that time. I would be brain dead, not able to have like proper discussion. But thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. With that said, please tell me, who are you, Sid?
all right. Okay. I am a DevRel guy, just like you. I spent my entire career with DevRel. That's what I've been doing. I started off as a Java technology engineer at IBM way back in 2015, but I just stayed there for a year, maybe a year and a couple of months, and since then I moved completely into DevRel. It's been my bread and butter, but also my passion, and that passion actually drove me to turn it into profession. So yeah, here I am doing this with you. Currently working with Neo4j. Uh, have you heard of Neo4j? Okay, I'll just give a quick brief on Neo4j as well for those
Please
who
do,
don't.
because I know, to be honest, personally, I assume other people know more than me. I know by name, because that company exists since forever, as far as I remember. But to be honest, I don't know exactly what you're doing. So that would be perfect to introduce the company. Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay. So Neo4j is a graph database company uh, created long back, as you said, has been in existence for more than 17 years, 15 years. Started off as a Java file. If you notice the name Neo4j has number 4 and J, that basically means Neo for Java. So our co-founder CEO ML
Oh,
is a Matrix fan, and that's what he said, which I read somewhere, that Neo came in from Matrix, right? And number 4 and J is basically Neo for Java. Started off as a Java jar file. Uh, that's long back. Okay, I don't remember the exact date, exact year, but I think it was somewhere around 2007, if I'm not wrong. Um, So yeah, started off as a Java file, jar file, and then eventually had lot of open source offerings, libraries, pivoted to Python, Go, blah blah blah, and stuff. Currently, it's a native graph database with where you have three deployment options. One is you can deploy it on prem, on your self-hosted cloud, Docker, anywhere. Second one is your cloud managed service. So you go to any of our cloud partners like Google Cloud, Azure, AWS, go to their marketplace and directly access Neo4j from there. And the third option is, which I love the most, is the database as a service, which reduces all of the hassle. You don't have to go to any of the cloud provisioning, no credits needed over there, no installation, nothing, but just a middle ground. It's a database as a service already hosted on cloud. If I want to go with the free tier, I don't have to plug in any credit card. If I want to upgrade the tier, I can go to a professional edition, just plug in my credit card and done. That's simple. That's
Oh,
why I
I
want
like that.
to service.
I like
Uh,
that. There's nothing that I can understand business why a company would ask you a credit card for a trial. There's sometimes some validation that needs to be done, like you're a real user and stuff like that. But I maybe I'm cynical about that, but I feel that like usually when a company asks you for a credit card for a trial, it's usually because they want you to forget that you were in a
exactly.
trial and start to charge you like in the first month that you have to pay. So any company that give you the opportunity to sign up for free, try it for free. And once you're ready, or once your trial hand, if you want to continue, now you need to add your credit card. I think it's more ethical. It's a more ethical way to do things. So good job on Neo4j for doing that.
Absolutely. Right. So yeah, coming back, so that was the deployment options for you. Now, what Neo4j is, so put it in very simpler terms, it helps you find hidden insights in your data. So I'll take an example of Panama Papers, which is, I'm guessing everyone would have heard of or might have heard of the word Panama Papers, which helped you uncover financial fraud rings that were happening. Now, folks at ICIJ, International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, so these folks got hold of 2.6 TB of a hard drive, which had 11.5 million documents. And this was not just bank statements, there were emails, there were scanned documents. Of course, bank statements were there,
Mm.
but it was massive amount of data, 2.6 TB of documents alone. Now they wanted to make sense out of that information. So what they started with a small document, small piece. Okay, I'll take one scan document or a bank statement, try to form some nodes and some relationships. Okay, it has a reference of a person. That person lives at a particular address. At that person also has an account with the bank in the United States, so on and so forth. And at the same address, they found another document where there was a reference to the same address, but it was for a different person. Now, that person is an officer of another company. That company has a bank account somewhere in Bahamas, and there's some transaction that's happening between the bank in Bahamas and bank in US or vice versa. And this is a very small um, data set or the bigger data set. Now, eventually, they were able to form connections across multiple
Hmm.
documents which are not related to each other in a direct way, but in a very indirect way. So yeah, that's one example. Or in general, how do you find fraud within financial industry? Financial, like BFSI industry, is a big use case for graphs,
Yeah.
but we see graphs are literally everywhere. So you take a piece of paper, draw two circles, join them together, and then eventually start connecting multiple circles and multiple lines. So that's how you form graphs as a whole.
Yeah, I'm quite
So
amazed of those kind of examples where like they find like piece of crumbs like everywhere and like they finally connect things together. Yeah,
yeah,
I always feel I don't know if it's me, but I always feel like in a thriller when you try to find like who's the murderer, but you need to find like little piece together, and you end up with like, oh my god, it started with like something that is totally irrelevant, and you end up with like, oh my god, that's the killer. It's probably not a good analogy, but always make me think about like you're a detective like trying to put pieces together, and I like that like we have technologies that help us to do that, because doing this
yeah,
manually would be like a pain.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if are you a Marvel fan by any chance?
Of course.
Okay, great. Now imagine putting the entire Marvel universe. I'm not talking about the cinematic universe. I'm talking about the entire Marvel universe, the entire Marvel comics. Put it into graph, and then you can map out, okay, this character appeared in these many comics or these many series, and not just in just one or two or four of movies that we know of.
Yeah, yeah.
Or yeah, I mean that's how big you can think about.
That's crazy because like if you know Marvel just a little bit, like outside of the movies, like the world and different worlds and different universe and like everything connected and unconnected and like it's just I sometimes wonder how the writers keep connected to all of this to like so it makes sense at some point. I just think that like they just stop trying to make sense of things and just like, oh, you know what, it's another universe, it's good, like this is what we're gonna do and we're gonna create something new, we're gonna bring back someone to life or stuff like that. But that's fine, that's going to be another universe or another thing. But yeah, yeah, it's complicated world or universe to understand. So yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah.
I love that. So it's why Neo4j rings a bell with me because it started with Java, and the beginning of my career, Java was my when I was a software developer full time. Java was one of my main programming language, so it's why I known by name Neo4j, but I wasn't totally sure like what were you up to right now, like in 2024. So thanks for sharing that with us. Yeah.
Great.
I would be curious to speaking of like you spoke about your employer, so you've been there for nearly 2 year and a half now. You are the developer relation lead of APAC. What does that mean, being a developer relation lead of a specific region of the world at Neo4j? What's your job? What's your role?
Well, yeah, I mean that's also not the official designation, but it's just that I'm the single man army in Asia Pacific at Neo4j. We are a
Okay.
ultra lean organization, so for now I have to run the entire devrel team, which is alone me alone. But yeah, work in collaboration with other teams within Neo4j, developers outside of Neo4j. Within Asia Pacific, I was a first hire, and when I started, we had no presence with devrel in Neo4j in Asia Pacific. No, so I started off with the community program. So we have a bunch of meetup groups. That's what I started with.
Mm.
Experimenting with things in India, then across Singapore, then across Australia. These are the three major
Yeah.
geographies for us. And then there are a bunch of smaller Southeast Asian countries and Japan, like Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. I mean, we are not too focused on those three countries, but yeah, a bit of presence over there, and then a bit of presence in Japan as well, but majorly focused on India, Singapore, and Australia. So started off with these meetup groups, laid some foundations. Okay, we're gonna do some regular meetups. We started off as a at least once in 6 months, and now we are at a stage where we are doing at least once a quarter,
Oh, nice.
minimum. But we are also seeing it, like for last quarters we were able to do once per month as well, in some cities. So that's a good progress since then. But meetups are not the only things. We started sponsoring third party developer conferences, um, conferences like Open Source India, PyCon India. In
Mm.
Australia, we sponsored Data Inch Bytes. So going over there, talking to developers, creating an awareness about Neo4j, educating about what graph database is, what technology is. But at the same time, there's a heavy focus on Gen AI these days that that we're talking about how graphs can help you build Gen AI powered applications. Um, Probably we can cover GraphRAG in a while, but yeah, that GraphRAG as a concept is what we are advocating to developers at this point of time. So yeah, this year has been truly focused on Gen AI and graphs coming together and pitching it to developers, educating them what we have in store for them. There have been, so we see there's mostly three kind of developers in these conferences, meetups, and activities. The first is who have used Neo4j maybe 5 or 6 years ago. They dropped somewhere in the between the journey. Um, Either their priorities change or their organizations change, so they no longer focus on graph database. But now they're slowly coming back and trying to use the technology again. I want to know what feature improvements we have done so far in the last 5, 6 years, 7 years. So that's one bucket of developers. The second one is who have been using consistently. They want to further upskill on what graphs and GenAI together have to offer. That's the second kind of bucket. And third type of developer persona that we are seeing at these activities is um, someone who has never heard of Neo4j, never worked with graph databases before, but they have purely worked on GenAI in the last couple of years, and now they are seeing a bigger interest with GraphRAG. So they want to understand what Neo4j is and what Neo4j can offer in the GraphRAG or GenAI space. So that's the three broader personas that I am seeing for now within Asia Pacific. And so not just restricting to these third party developer conferences, we also do a lot of first party activities like nodes conference. It's a global conference, virtual global conference, but we also have an APAC leg. So we start with the APAC time zone, then we move on to the Americas, sorry, EMEA,
Okay.
and America. So we do it like a 24-hour marathon of graph content, um, back to back in a single day time.
Whoa.
So yeah, that's a lot. Plus, I help other cross-functional collaborations with field marketing, supporting them with graph summits, um, with the partner engagements, cloud partner engagements. We do a lot of activities with Google Cloud, AWS, Azure. So how we can deliver some workshops sessions. So mostly these talks, workshops, advocacy, relations, everything is kind of like mapped into one single unit right now within Neo4j.
That makes sense. It seems like you're focusing a lot on in-person activities, which I love. I think, don't get me wrong, I think it's for depending on your goal, it may be easier to scale offline for some stuff, but like really creating a connection, really identifying like influencers, potential users, potential customers, really like trying to gather proper feedback to bring to the product team. I maybe I'm old school, but like I feel like in person, offline is kind of like the way to go. So I love learning that Neo4j and yourself like are focusing on those type of programs or activities. It's great
Absolutely.
to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
when sorry,
go ahead.
when you said old school, that actually makes the two of us. I prefer the same route as well, going on ground, talking to developers, understanding what the needs are, and then mapping it to what organizational goals are. That's a big challenge as well. You're the voice of developers
Yeah.
within
Yep.
the organization and outside the organization, but at the same time you have to make sure that you find a right balance with what you can commit to these developers and what organizations can offer.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And when I said old school, it's because from my personal experience when I started being a developer advocate, it was in 2011 maybe, and our job we were doing stuff online. Like I was writing blog posts, I was doing some videos, but mostly the focus were was offline. And at the time, I most of the developer advocates I know were focusing on doing offline. Creating or going to meetups, speaking at conferences, organizing hackathons. Sometimes just doing happy hours or like networking events. But like it was mostly about connecting with people. And in the recent years, I've seen like the curves change a little bit, like at many jobs where the focus was a little less offline, a lot more online for scalability, because you can reach out more people offline, online actually, because you don't have like to go to places, you don't have to travel. It's also usually less expensive. But I always thought that it was a mistake to solely focus on online. And I'm slowly seeing, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's different from other developer advocate, but I'm slowly seeing companies understanding that, like, yes, it's true, it costs money to do things offline, because you need to sponsor events, you have the travel and expense, you need some swag, because like you cannot be successful without free t-shirt or stuff, like it's part of the job. Yeah, you need to, sometimes you're going to pay drinks or foods for folks. Like there is expenses out there, it costs money, but I feel like the return on investment is usually a lot bigger. But again, it depends on your goal. It depends on what you want to achieve. But I feel like in the recent year, like the pendulum, or like it's starting, company are starting to understand that, like, doing only online activities or programs for DevRel, there are some benefits, but you're not able to connect as much with your audience like when you do when you're offline. And so both are pros and cons. But yeah, when I was saying old school, it was not in a negative way. It was more like, it was like when I started, it was mostly only that. It changed to mostly only online, and now I feel like it's going back to a more proper ratio from what I see at other
Yeah,
companies. Yeah. And
exactly. And
I sorry, go ahead.
yeah, in fact, uh, the term that's used to call us, our job title says developer relations. I still wonder, how do you build relationships online? I mean, the LinkedIn request doesn't count as relationships. The moment you connect the person on ground, or in a one-to-one setting like this, then you're building a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, like, sorry. I believe it's possible to build a little bit. It's my personal opinion. It's possible to build some relationship online with people we've never met. But as you said, it still need a little bit of effort. It's not just like, oh, we're connected on LinkedIn, now we're friends, or now we know each other. Now we are like, we really are connected. We're like connected on social media, but like doesn't need, we're connected as human, as person. It needs time to build relation. It's why I always say that developer relation or developer advocate job is for a medium to long term impact. If you're looking for a quick win, I'm able to get you some quick win, but like it's not going to be the most of my job. It's not going to be where I'm going to be the most successful or impactful, because I deal with human, but I deal with human in a healthy way. I'm not here to force you to use my project. I'm not here to sell you anything and everything if it doesn't make sense for you. I'm here to help you being successful. And of course, I would love for you to be successful with my product, because I need a paycheck, and I need to bring back to talk to my managers and say, like, hey, you know what, like I was able to succeed in this, that. But at the end of the day, it's all about relationship. It's all about having an honest connection with human, and it takes time. It takes time.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love when you said, like, you are the voice of the developer inside and outside, meaning that it's why I don't know when you started to do that, Rel, but like when I started to do that, the title that was popular was it was technical evangelist. And it was a little bit of a controversy, because people thought that it was not fair for religious people when we talk about evangelists, that we were kind of like laughing about that, which was not the case from my point of view. I respect, I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person, but I respect every religion out there. And but I love the title because that was a good icebreaker. But at some point, people focus on like the words too much, and they were like, oh, you're a technical evangelist, so the only thing you do is that you evangelize. And I'm like, that's not true. There is some role that are just about that. But for me, it was always about creating a relation. It was always a two-way street. So I was evangelizing things, I was sharing things, I was educating people about my product, about other technology. But a big chunk of my job was to bring back the feedback of the developers to the team, to be the voice of the developer, the people I connect with. So just wanted to I talked too much, but I just wanted to reiterate that I love the fact that when you were talking about what you do, you specially mentioned that. I think it's the sign of a person doing a good job in DevRel, from my point of view. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Speaking about that, you said you've been doing DevRel for a long time, but it was not your first job in tech. And you said, okay, it's a passion. I found a way to kind of like quote unquote monetize my passion and make it a profession. Um, what was the point in your career? Like, why the change, or how did it happen? Like, you went from like another tech role and you decided to move as a developer advocate. What's the story
Right.
behind that?
So I graduated in computer science. So always wanted to stay connected with technology. I've kind of grown with computers, been fascinated with computers. I mean, back in my school days, and I'm talking about 2007, 6, 7. Probably that was the first time when I got hold of computer. I always wanted to just play games on computer back then, but never understood the real potential. But then slowly and gradually, I started learning more and then getting upskilled on various programming languages. Back then, it was just Visual Basic,
Mm,
Kabul, Logo. I mean, I'm talking still as an old school guy, but yeah. So yeah, those languages were the ones that I got myself trained on, .NET and stuff. Um, and then fast forward to my final year at my university, I wanted to like take a leap of faith and apply for this Google Student Ambassador program. uh, this is now called as Google Developer Student Clubs. So this program was the pilot program in India way back in 2012, if I'm not wrong, and 2014 was the second or the third batch. Um, so I was part of that batch, representing my university to Google and Google to my university, acting as a liaison between, um, helping students upskill on digital marketing because Google earns their money from ads. So they want to talk about Google digital marketing. Yeah, and Android and Google Cloud back then. And Google Cloud was in a very, very early stage over there at that point of time. But what I learned from that entire 1 year in my final year, and also working for that program, was how to give back to the community. The sense of gratitude, the sense of giving back was missing in me. You're always hungry for knowledge. You always want to gain, but how do you give it back? And then
mm,
eventually see the success and someone coming and telling you, "Hey, we attended your session. We attended this talk of yours. It really changed our life." That's a success that I was looking for. But then I applied multiple times, but not succeeded. Didn't get through to Google, to all these big companies, Microsoft, blah blah blah. So then eventually landed up my job at IBM. Java was not my first choice, definitely, but I was working with a team which was responsible for developing IBM's own Java, which was like a modified version of Oracle's Java after obtaining the necessary license codes and source code and
mm,
licensing and source code and stuff. So I was part of that team, but my first choice for programming language till date has always been Python. I'm a Python guy. Uh, but then 1 year into the world of Java, and irrespective of that, 1 year into corporate world, understanding how things work, I started losing interest. And around the same time, I had to quit my job due to some family circumstances, and that was a time when I was thinking, what's next?
mm,
I had a couple of options. One was, I can think of pursuing further into UX design, UX research, UX design, because empathy, user understanding is what I kind of still
okay.
try to learn, and from a developer's lens now. But back then it was more in terms of how do I understand a user using a product. So did a couple of design thinking sessions as well for startups. So I thought that maybe UX is the field for me to go. Alternative career would be to continue whatever I was doing at IBM and then move into the Java development or any other developer languages of thought. Or third would be I I've kind of started recalling my days at days when I was part of Google Student Ambassador program. That how I used to enjoy doing all of those activities. So
Mm,
that probably that is something which will still gonna be exciting for me, and then I might continue it for a while. I had absolutely no idea. So you can think of like a fresher just out of college back then, university back then, and then had absolute no clue on what career path to choose. Uh, my parents were kind of worried that this guy is gonna do nothing and just sit idle at home, because for the last 6 months I was not doing anything. And then eventually I got a job at one of my friend's startup, and they started working with a lot of other MNCs. I thought that's not exactly what I'm looking for, but somewhere there. It's more of a blend of program management and advocacy, and somewhere into devrel side of things. But I can probably like learn and grow, and then eventually um take a move somewhere else. So it worked out well. I learned quite new things in my job. I learned about AI and ML, which I was not aware of what machine learning and AI ML was all about. So learned on the job, worked with Intel programs, worked with Google programs, got some skills in terms of how to develop edtech strategy for these companies, what these companies look for,
yes.
what's there in the market. So worked on ground as well with people who are going to consume these content. So what would work best for them, what strategy would work best for them. So that helped me a lot. And then eventually I thought, okay, this is the thing that I can go further. And then after probably 2.5 years, I thought I'll make another move. And now I was kind of ready for starting my own consultancy. I
Mm.
started that for a while, helping other companies build their edtech strategy or devrel strategy. But at the same time, I was being interviewed for Google. That was my third job. So Google interview took almost 6 months to
Oh
get over.
wow.
That's a
God,
lot, and probably 5 or 6 months.
that's terrible.
Yeah, and that was a long process, long and tedious, tiring, frustrating process. To be honest, I don't like that part. Why do they take such long? But yeah, that was a
God,
thing.
it just doesn't make sense. Don't get me started on how like the interview processes are broken. I thought it took me forever when I started the interview process at Microsoft. I think it took 2 months, and like I had 11 interviews or something like that. And I was like, that just doesn't make any fucking sense. Where I am right now at Construct, it took a week. I had like 3 interviews, and they were
Yeah,
mostly like one real interviews and 2 discussion. They were like didn't feel there were interviews, there were more discussion. And a week, maximum a week and a half after, I was like, hey, you know what, Fred, we want to hire you. Job offering is coming. And I was like, okay, now this is how we do interviews. Like if
exactly.
after 3 interviews you cannot decide if the person is a good fit for you or not, it doesn't make sense. If you cannot move within at least a month, even better, 2 3 weeks, I mean, like you're definitely doing something wrong. Like there's too many processes. But sorry, I went on a different direction because I was
No,
like, it
no,
just doesn't make sense. 6 months, I've never heard
no,
that. That's crazy shit.
yeah,
Sorry about that. But yeah, let's go back
no,
to your
absolutely. And
story.
in fact, like recalling that entire journey, I feel frustrated now that that took 6 months. But yeah, that was okay. So my thought process was pretty simple back then. Um, Either it's happening, then I'll probably pause my consultancy and then switch to
Mm.
devrel. If it's not happening, then I'm just gonna
Oh,
continue.
okay. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I'm thinking about it. You were in a good spot where, like, okay, you were still making money, and that was like a
exactly.
interesting job. But like, I'm thinking about people that like they need a job now, and they need like to have money, and they like because they lost their job or whatever. And like 6 months is way too long. I have the time to find like 10 job before that. Maybe not right now because the market is like shit. But like previously, like you would have half time if you really wanted to find another job. I'm like, sorry, I'm like, even if you're Google, like I need a paycheck, I need to make a living. I'm not gonna wait 6 months, but you're in a good position. So glad for you. I don't want to complain too much. I understand how those things work, but like definitely, I know it's not the case anymore, but definitely 6 months is just it doesn't
It
make
was
sense
crazy.
at
It
all.
was
At
crazy.
all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that. I needed to say something because it was like it just blew my mind. But yeah,
uh,
so yeah.
yeah, I mean, so it took 6 months, and then eventually they rolled out the offer. And in those 6 months, I was being hired. Like when I applied for a different team, different role, but got hired for a different team and different role altogether. One of the interviewers, in fact, had a long discussion slash fight with the actual hiring manager back then, for which I applied. So the interviewer, the wanted me to hire, wanted me to come on board for his team and not go to
Oh,
the other team. So he kind of negotiated with the other hiring manager and just got me into the devil team, and which I feel is, in a way it worked out well for me later on when I was at Google. um, Working with startup, you got one side of story and then one side of
yeah.
learning. But then working at Google and then knowing that, okay, these are the nuances as well. um, these are the nitty gritties that you also need to take into consideration. Or how do you keep the um, f- keep a balance between what companies like or Google look for, need for, and then taking it to the developers. So there were good learnings in general. My manager was amazing at Google. Had a good time. Spent close to 3 years at Google. Uh, Partially the time was at like when it was pandemic, so I
Mm,
kind of hate that part. I had to not go to office or not be in person, but push everything remote, virtually. But still, there were good learnings. How do you because that was those were unprecedented times. Nobody has seen those
yeah.
situations before. So how do you pivot from all the in-person strategies to a virtual strategy? That was also like a good learning back then. So yeah, worked out well. After Google, I kind of decided that I'm going to continue my path towards DevRel and advocacy. Um, Either of it or a mix of two, or just continue in this direction itself. Then I worked with a startup, fintech startup. It didn't work out well with that fintech startup, primarily for the reason that, as you said, that I'm not there to sell anything, right? Of course, I want to keep the best interest of organization in mind, but I'm not a salesperson. End
Yeah,
of the day.
there's a lot of misconception about developer relation when they think at the end you're gonna be like a cool salesperson. Not that salesperson not cool, but like a different ways of like doing sales, and it's gonna be like a different approach to sales to developer. And like as you said, don't get me wrong, like we need sales, we need people to buy our software. I need my paycheck, and I would love to see my employer being successful, so we need that. But like my job is to prepare the top of the funnel for the salespeople, is to bring users, is to get visibility, is to bring the feedback to help us having a better product. So the sales team, when you start to hire someone to do sales or business development, they don't start from scratch. They already have a community, they already have people that can approach, they already have like the feedback about the product. So I think those role can work together, but they're different for a reason. So yeah, I can understand. I've been there in another company too, where like they wanted me to sell, and I'm like, yeah, I thought we had that discussion during the interview process, and I'm pretty sure it was clear about what I do and what I don't do in that role. And they were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But like once I started the job, it was like a different song that we're singing. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, that startup didn't work out well. I mean, they were not forcing me to sell anything, but then they didn't had anything for the open source developer ecosystem.
mm,
uh, Fintech as a industry is highly regulated in India, especially. There are a lot of regulations by RBI, or Reserve Bank of India, in terms of what you're putting into the public domain. um, the tons of stuff, there's regulations, privacy and stuff. So then eventually kind of felt that it's not my place where I
hmm,
can really thrive. So I need to get out. I had multiple options, and then I chose Neo4j. I had absolutely no idea about Neo4j, just being honest and candid over here. I had never heard of Neo4j back then. When I was being hired, or rather, when the hiring manager approached, not the hiring manager, the recruiting manager approached me. she mentioned about Neo4j, and I was like, is it another fintech company? So in fintech, there's a term called neo banking, neo
Okay,
banking.
I didn't know.
Uh, and I kind of felt that, okay, neo banking, Neo4j is something related. It still feels like, okay, I'm still in a fintech world. So I in fact asked, like, are you the parent? So a lot of times I get reached out by recruiters who are from consultancy, hiring consultancy
Mm,
companies. So like, are you the recruiter, or are
yeah,
you
yeah. Who
from a
are you?
company? Who are you? What does this company do? Is it into fintech? Like, okay. And then I started digging into more into Neo4j. And like, okay, this is an exciting product. That looks exciting. So I just gave it a chance, and then it worked out well. The process was not that long. So
Good.
I think I had um, probably just three rounds of interviews, of which one was an actual interview, and then two of them were the discussions, and then there were a bunch of follow-on discussions, just for the namesake. I don't know why they were
Hmm.
delaying that, but yeah, just for the namesake, they had some follow-on discussions as well,
Yeah.
later on.
I think it's interesting though that like even if you don't know a company, I mean I for different reasons changed job a little bit often in the first part of my developer relations career, and I know I work at Microsoft, Fitbit, Mozilla, and NPM, which I already know, but like every other companies I work for, I did not even know them before. So when they reach out to me at some point to say like, "Hey, Fred, we have a role," I had to look out for them, and I was like, I never use your product, but I always seen that as maybe not like a strain, but at the same time a little bit. At least it's not negative because what I really love to do in a new role is that I arrive at customer zero, and that really gave me the opportunity to try the product as someone who's never used it. So I have no bad habit. I have no knowledge that I can use right now. So it means that I need to use the docs. I need to find tutorials. I need to check, do you have any videos? And it also gave me the opportunity to basically define, okay, what is not, what could be better, what is missing, what could be like a better experience for a developer or person starting to use the product. And this is what I've done for the last couple of jobs where I was like, I'm gonna be customer zero with customer zero plus zero knowledge at all of what you're doing, and I always feel like it was something positive in a good way to start my job because again, I can have like an overview about like what's the real experience for someone new using your product. So yeah, always feel like it was a great thing. With that said, sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely, and I totally agree on that part. In fact, whenever I join, I kind of don't have any idea about what the industry is, or what the technology is, the product is, and it helped me and also the organization to give a purely unbiased view about the
Hmm.
product and the technology. I can say shit. I mean, of course, if it's not shitty, if
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
shitty, I can actually say that. No,
yeah,
okay, it's shit. You
yeah.
need to fix this, and that worked out well for me at least. I don't know if the organization feels the same, the past
Yeah, it
ones, but
doesn't work. It doesn't always work. Trust me. I mean, I'm that kind of person. I've lost a job because I was too honest, and the CEO got I bruised CEO's ego. I'm really lucky where I am right now at Construct, or CEO or CTO. They're welcome. All the comments and advice, as long as you're respectful. But like, if you say like, you know what, something is shit, and they're gonna be like they're gonna agree or disagree, and we're gonna have a discussion, and they know that like it's coming from love, basically. Like, I want us to be successful, so I'm not saying that to be an asshole. I'm saying that because this is my opinion, this is what I've seen, this is what I experienced, and I want us to be better. So it's always in the goal of like trying to improve ourselves. But with that said, I don't have the only truth. It doesn't mean that like everything I bring back or everything I say is true, but at least they're willing to listen and they're willing to discuss. And after that, it's fine if we agree to disagree. But most of the time, it brought us to a step that like, oh yeah, we should fix that. Oh yeah, we should improve that. Oh yeah, we know that, but it's not a priority for X, Y, Z. And at least I get the information that I need to be able to do a great job. With that said, Sid, we could talk forever. We are two developer advocates. I feel like I still would love to discuss because it's super interesting. But for the sake of the audience, we will move to the demo part of the show if it makes sense for you. You wanted to demonstrate a Gen AI chatbot, if I'm not mistaken. So the floor is yours. Tell us a little bit more about your project.
Absolutely. I will just quickly share in my screen.
And
Um,
while we do that, I want to thank our sponsor, Construct, which is my employer. They give me the opportunity to do my live stream during work hour. They're super supportive about the developer relations type of work and trying to promote DevRel within the industry and good practice, which hopefully that show does a little bit. So yeah, on that note, Sid, the mic is yours.
awesome. Well, I want to first set in the context about this project. So this is based on one of the most loved Indian epic called Mahabharata. It's also probably the largest epic in the world ever written. And when I say its largest, I'm talking about 100,000 verses with over 1.8 million words. And there are 200 significant characters, and there are countless secondary figures as well. And that there is a dense web of relationships. So that's a volume that I'm talking about over here. Um, Now, when I talk about relationships, there could be familial relationships, or like a father-son, siblings, or marital alliances for family continuity, or political alliances, or there's teacher-student relationships as well, or adversarial relationships like rivalries, enmity. So think of it the way you see it in Game of Thrones, like someone has killed someone else, but that person was brother of someone, and then the, the bigger brother is the father of someone. I mean, you can build the entire family tree, family structure, and hierarchies and stuff. But there's a dense web of relationships over here that I'm referring to. So I built this nice chatbot where I turned all the 18 PDFs. I don't want to go into the depth of how the journey looked like. I can send in a YouTube video link. I presented this entire project at Notes 2024, and I can send that particular link as well, um, which covered the entire journey of converting this entire project into a nice chatbot. So it eventually started off as just a small hobby passion project to learn more about Neo4j and how do I implement Neo4j and combine it with an ancient epic. So how the technology and ancient epic meet together. So that was the intent. But then eventually a lot of people showed interest, and I converted into a chatbot. Then I refined the chatbot and eventually added more documents to it. So currently it's a GraphRAG application where I have loaded 18 books, or 18 parvas, 18 chapters basically, which are basically 18 PDFs with an average of 300 pages per PDF.
When your chapter is a full book, you know it's a long story.
Exactly, exactly. So one chapter alone itself is a book in itself,
Wow.
and I'm talking of 5,400 pages and roughly 10.8 million characters to embed to chunk. These are word characters basically, so roughly 2.7 million tokens. If I assume that it takes 4 characters per token, so that's a lot of information to chunk. And I use this nice tool that we built, called LLM Graph Builder tool. I think the link for this LLM Graph Builder tool would be available on our GenAI ecosystem page, which Fred had showed you, which is being displayed now. So I use these 18 PDFs, chunk them, and then it creates nice graph out of all those 18 PDFs. I use GPT-4o to generate graph for me. Let's see if it takes time or it loads quickly, but it for each PDF it generates a lexical or a document graph, but also an entity graph. So it picks in the entities from the PDF and starts generating graph around it. But it also maintains the chunks, the entire document as well, in a graphical format, graph representation format. It's taking a little while. Takes sometimes a little while to generate. But I can go back and show the console and everything how it looks like. But nonetheless, I can directly query over here. So if I just ask like why did the Mahabharata war happen, so it just fetches from all the 18 PDFs and generates and concise response for me. Usually it doesn't take that time, but I don't know why it's super slow
Yeah,
today.
it's the it's the live demo. Always does that.
Okay, it didn't give up for me, so I'm happy about that. uh, okay, lovely. And then that's not all. Once you get a response, you can also go and check which sources were referred, which chunks were used. So that's actually the best part about GraphRAG as a concept. Again, I'm not gonna cover what GraphRAG is. I'll let you folks figure out it from the links that that Fred has shared. So okay, these are the four PDFs that have been used as a source. Not all 18 PDFs, if you notice.
Mhm.
These are the chunks that have been referred to. These are the top entities that have been referred to, and this is the evaluation metrics. I ran this in and it utilized 33 more than 33,000 tokens. It used GPT-4o in a graph and full vector and full text mode. So that's the option and the luxury that I get. It usually takes 20 seconds, and then detailed score, faithfulness, accuracy. So I can go and see the detailed metrics. Um, I can chat within this in a multiple mode. So there's an entity search vector mode, there's full text, there's vector only mode. I can switch the LLMs as well for both the graph generation and also for my chat. So for the graph generation, the moment my PDF is loaded, I can change it to GPT-4 or Mini or Gemini 1.5 Flash or anything. Now, if you're wondering if you want to use, let's say, Claude or Llama or any other open source models or any of your own model, what you can do is you can run this as a local version as a Docker image on your local machines, and then use it with Olama and then run a local LLM as well. So that's the
Okay,
best part about this tool that I love. You run it with any LLM for that matter. But if you want to run a cloud hosted version, you don't have to plug in any of the API keys. It's totally free. You just have to click on, so there's going to be a connect to Neo4j button. Just click on that,
mhm,
put in your credentials, drag and drop your sources. So you have not just PDFs, you can do web sources, you can do from S3 buckets or Google Cloud Storage buckets, and that's it. I mean, as simple as that. And just click on that
that's
and
great.
then click on generate graph, and it generates graph quickly for you. Yeah, I
That's
mean,
great, and
this is,
that's open source too. I was
yeah,
looking
that's
on,
open source too.
so yeah, sharing the repo right now, but it's on the website I shared before, the chatbot website. But yeah, it's great. So people that want to learn how to do that, on the website at the top there is a link. Actually, on the right for you, there is a link to get out, but there's also the blog post that we're talking about that explain like how you done that.
Yes, so this particular web app has all the links for my blogs. So you just have to go to this read blog, and it opens up the three-part journey: part one, part two, part three. So you can read from there. This particular chatbot I specifically didn't show today is because it's running some issues at the back end, which I need to fix. But at the end of the day, it's running it from the LLM graph builder tool. So the information is already sitting in my Neo4j database, so I can use even the LLM graph builder tool to query the database. But yeah, once the chatbot is fixed, I'll notify everyone, and they can just chat within this particular tool and then ask questions around it. If there's any feedback you want to contribute, there's a GitHub link as well. Feel free to send in some issues and some pull requests. If you see anything which you want to implement, any feature requests, just send in. I'd love to implement that as well. Um, while we are here and we have time, I will just quickly send in the uh, link to my notes talk, which I did at the start of this month. I'm sending it to you, Fred, and then if you can share it as well.
I
So,
will.
entire journey of how I went on to build this is explained in this 15 minutes. It was super fast, but yeah. Uh, so yeah, that's the chatbot for you.
Awesome. Yeah, from ancient epic to modern marvel, demystifying the Mahabharata. Am I saying
Yeah.
that good enough? Yeah, chatbot with GraphRAG. So yeah, it's oh, and it's a quick talk. So that's perfect for people that have a small attention span like me. 15 minutes. So that's perfect to understand what you've done, have you've done it, and yeah, people. So it's available there. And awesome. You pick my curiosity this time, tech wise, also, but also about like the story itself. So I will probably try to give it like a closer look to the books. But yeah, great demo. Interesting to learn about those technology, so people can go on Neo4j, and as you said, like there's a free trial, so people can try it and see how it's working, experiment with it. And if you have any questions, now you know someone at Neo4j, you can contact him. It's his job, to help you being successful with the product. And from what I've heard in the last hour, is going to do that with a smile, and is going to be happy to help you. So on that note, Sid, I think it brings us to slowly to the end of the show. Um, is there any last words you would like to share to either people working with DevRel, people thinking about moving to a developer advocate role, people wanting to do GraphRAG, whatever you want to share? The mic is yours for the next minute or two before we go offline.
Right. I mean, one thing which I definitely want to give it as an advice or more like a disclaimer that, and take it with a pinch of salt. Devrel or David advocacy or community building, it can't be taught. It comes from within. So if you are looking for something where you can learn this and then you can just use those in your job, I mean, uh, that's okay, that's fine. But I usually don't advise that unless it is coming in from you. You don't succeed in your job. You don't ace in your job. So you should love what you're doing. Um, if you can't learn on the field, then it's not the place for you to go for. Um,
I kind of agree with that. Meaning that like there's some, from my point of view, again, there's some part of things that you can learn, but there's a lot of things that come from who you are as a person, also your personality, your what the industry calls soft skills, which for me in DevRel, I prefer to call them hard skills. Like being like social, being able to connect with people, being able to empathize or having compassion for people, because the developer job is hard. Everybody that say hell like that is easy being a software developer. I think you're full of your shit. Full, I was going to say full of shit and move to full of yourself, but I think it is. I'm doing that for 20 something years. I'm not the best software developer out there, but I'm not the worst, and I still consider it like it's a hard job. It's rewarding in a way, depending on like who you work for, or which project you work for, or with whom you work for. It's nice to be able to create stuff. It's a form of art. From a point of view, it's a form of art. You create things, it's amazing, but it's not easy, because bugs and platforms and all the technologies that there, and customers requirement, and users what they want and don't want, and how they can express their stuff. So it's difficult work. Yeah, being able to do developer advocate job also, it's a lot of fun. It's not always easy, if I want to be honest. There's a good and bad part of doing that job, but I feel like I didn't have much jobs in my life. I mean, like I was a software developer. After that, I was a developer advocate, and prior to that, I had one student job. I was working in a bowling alley. But I feel like from many jobs that you can have in, especially in the tech industry, where you just need like the hard skill and a little bit of soft skills. You always need like to be able to communicate with people whatsoever. But like I feel for a developer advocate, as we were saying, said, you need to have those. It comes from within a lot. So good share, good take here on the DevRel job. And if you agree or disagree, feel free to let us know in
yeah.
comments. And on that note, it is the end of the DevRel show. Thanks a lot again, Sid, for coming to the show. It's mostly midnight for you. I don't know how you do that. I don't know you were about to have a discussion and be like coherent during all that time. Maybe I'm just old. It's too late for me to do a show at that time. But it's good for me. It's like 1 p.m., so I'm good. But for you, it's nearly midnight. So thanks again for being on the show. It was a pleasure to have you. It was a pleasure to also to meet you because we didn't know each other before we connected for the DevRel show. And folks, thanks for joining us live. You were a little bit quiet today, but I still love you, even if you didn't ask any question or didn't have any comments. For people watching the recording, I also love you. Thanks for watching the recording. If you have any question, anything, please leave a comment on YouTube, and if I can answer, I'm going to do it. If it's specific to Sid, I'm going to relay the question to Sid, and he's going to come answer it. And on that note, I wish everybody a good rest of the day, and we're going to see each other, folks, for the last DevRel show of the year on the actually in 2 weeks. I'm going to be on the 12th of December, and yeah. Thanks for everything. Thanks, Sid, again. And
Thank
thanks,
you.
everyone. And see you in 2 weeks for the next DevRel show.
Thank
Bye,
you. Thanks
everyone.
for